welcome everyone to the next in a series of webinars hosted by the PPMA. Our aim for these sessions is to share experiences, learning and practice, and hopefully some of this you can take back to consider for your own organisations. So my name is Jill Parker and I'm the Assistant Director for HR and Communications here at the City of Doncaster Council. I'm also a Vice President and a Senior Board Member for PPMA. So if I can, just before we start, just a few housekeeping points. The session is being recorded, but only for the speakers who will be shown on screen while we're going through the presentation. Can you also keep things on mute unless you're asking a question, and any questions can be put in the chat box or asked at the end. So please do make the time to put anything in the chat box. It does help us then and others who have got questions that want answering. So today's session then, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to Sean Tetley, the Head of Payroll, Pensions and Reward at Portsmouth City Council, and Strategic Partnership Manager Alicia Atherton of AVC Wise. Today we're going to be discussing around helping the workforce with financial resilience and wellbeing in retirement. So over to you, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jill. Yes, good afternoon. It is now, isn't it? Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Sean Tetley. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about me on the next slide. As you can see, we're covering the subject of financial resilience and financial well-being today. And I suppose the immediate thing you may well ask is, well, what is the difference between the two? I mean, if we start with financial resilience, there are a few definitions out there, but the main one you'll keep coming back to, it's all about your personal ability to withstand life events that affect your money or assets. So it's a longer term approach to your relationship with money. And in a nutshell, if an unexpected expense suddenly comes along, have you got the financial means to deal with it? And if you can, that actually means you're financially resilient. I think makes common sense that one. And if we go on to financial well-being, I think I'll turn to the government's definition on this one, and you've probably heard of the MAPS, who are the Money and Pension Service, a quango of the government. They define financial well-being not miles away from that previous definition, but they define it as feeling secure and in control of your finances, both now and in the future. And it's knowing that you can pay the bills today, can deal with the unexpected, are on track for a healthy financial future. And at the top of the slide, you'll see the AVC Wise logo. If you're new to AVC Wise, it's probably worth me just mentioning now that we work with over 250 large public sector organisations, so that's predominantly councils, but also universities, fire authorities, police authorities. So yeah, a large number of authorities, and although it says AVC, we do far more than just AVCs. We support LGPS members and public sector employers with a big pension education piece, if you like, which I know leads to empowering staff to achieve much better financial well-being outcomes, if you like. So during this session, we'll explore some of the ways caring employers can enhance the well-being of the workforce, and a quite nice one actually in these cash-strapped budgetary times, explain how you can also deliver some employer savings at the same time. So can I just check if my slide has moved on?
No, Sean.
No,
Next.
okay.
Yeah.
Just see if it's frozen. Tell me if it's moved on now.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. We're on the move. Okay, so that's an awful picture of me, and I have got the most unusual role, I think, or job in local government and beyond, because I'm head of pensions, payroll and reward at Portsmouth and Gosport, another council on the south coast. I chair the Public Sector Chartered Institute of Payroll Professionals. I manage the reward benefit proposition for 2 local authorities. I also work for AVC Wise, helping employers I chair the Oracle Fusion HR payroll user group, chair all sorts of other things nationally. So yeah, I've got a very, very unusual job, but I do really like it. But what I love most of all, I think, is working in pensions. And just very quickly before I leave this slide, there's a couple of other final bullet points there, which hopefully would be interesting to you. It was me who introduced the first local government shared cost AVC scheme in the country, and it's now live with 250 large public sector authorities. And I'll come back to that a little bit later, because I think when I eventually come to retire, I think I will have left a sort of legacy there for the public sector. So the question on the slide there is, why are we here today? I think, well, I know there is a huge emphasis on financial well-being in the public sector. Certainly every council in the country has created cost of living support and resources to help both residents in their area and staff. As an example, at Portsmouth, we have a cost of living hub, a cost of living helpline. We've created cost of living champions. So we've done all sorts of things to try and help both staff and resident. And if we concentrate on the staff, I think we're all aware that they are our most important asset in the organisation, and you do need to look after them or they will move on. We all know how tough it is in local government at the moment to recruit and retain staff. So it pays to go that extra mile on all aspects of wellbeing, if you like. There's a fever pitch activity at the moment in the public sector space in reviewing benefits portals that are provided. We're no different at Portsmouth. We're going through market testing at the moment, looking at alternative providers. And by the way, if you haven't done that, there are some good free employee benefit providers out there these days. Really worth reviewing that if you haven't done so. The difficulty clearly that we've got in the public sector is we're dealing with public money, and we'll never see some of those wonderful benefits that you see advertised in commercial firms like Google and Co. Amazing. Some of them offer things like free food and drink, free on-site gyms, a day off for Christmas shopping. Can't see any of this ever happening in the public sector, and even one that offers a free on-site doctor and dentist. So yeah, there's some very interesting benefits available out there in the commercial space, but not in local government. So just quickly turning to the points on the slide there. First one, not enough of us are saving for retirement. That is a fact. The average pension in local government is low. You may be surprised to know that the current figures are for a female, the average local government pension is 3,198, and for a male, 5,146. So we're not talking about stunning numbers here. If you add the state pension onto those numbers, it's not going to be nowhere near enough to live comfortably on. And if we turn to another wonderful organisation called the PLSA, Pension Lifetime Savings Association, their latest figures say that to have a comfortable retirement, you need to have income of at least, this is a couple, income of at least £54,000 a year. So I know many people in local government will not be there based on their current pension outcome unless they do something about it. And I think I'm just going to praise AVC Wise a bit here, because I did say this at the beginning, that if you're looking for a pension education, pension guidance and pension help, you don't need to go any further than AVC Wise, because they provide all of that for their 250 public sector partners. So they do a great job on that. And the LGPS staff have the amazing shared cost AVC scheme that I mentioned earlier, that I introduced about 5 or 6 years ago, and I'm presenting at a major national conference in October. And jokingly, although I'm not sure if this is totally joking, I've labelled that scheme as the 8th wonder of the world, because you find me a savings scheme that guarantees you a growth rate of 47% on every pound you save for basic rate taxpayers, and 72% for higher rate taxpayers, all done through the payslip. Yeah, maybe not the 8th wonder of the world, but pretty stunning. Okay, so let's go on to the next slide, which is on the importance of well-being. And it's been a tough couple of years, as everybody knows. Public sector pay hasn't kept pace with inflation. We've had soaring bills, haven't we? Energy, food inflation has been extraordinary. Rising interest rates have piled pressure on. So it's tough, and as a good employer, we need to support staff more than ever in these difficult times. And if we go back to that money and pension service definition of financial well-being, feeling secure and in control of your finances and on track for a healthy financial future. So the question is, as a good employer, are you helping your staff on their financial well-being journey and making sure that they've got sufficient money to be able to enjoy a healthy financial future? And you can help them very much. We know that most people leave it far too late to think about their financial future. And that's why any good employer will support their staff on that journey and help them to a more secure future. And the way you can do that is through the delivery of effective financial education. And we all know that the workplace pension is almost certainly our most valuable financial asset apart from the job itself. And understanding that pension that you've got, don't just say it's a good pension, but understanding some of those critical pension actions you need to take. And I mean, I could go through them. I can almost guarantee that for most, there's about 6 of them. For most people in local government, they'll only have done 1 or 2. So it's about making sure you access your pension record, that you check it properly, that you've made a nomination, that you've had a look at your state pension, you've looked at your annual benefit statement, you've run some what-if estimates, so you know if you're on track to get a decent enough income in retirement. All of those critical actions that I've just talked about, we can deliver and support that pension education piece, if you like, with AVC Wise. So yeah, there's a lot of support available out there. And an interesting study quite recently has shown that 30% of employers have said that financial well-being is my top concern. That's what they came back and said. And by enhancing your financial well-being provision and proposition, you'll find that your staff will want to stay with you. So that might avoid those very difficult recruitment and retention issues we've got at the moment. You'll demonstrate that you care about your staff. I think you'll see an increase in your productivity and performance, and the scores on that famous annual survey of staff where they rate you as a good employer, you may find those numbers tick up if you are engaging and doing this piece of work. And the real fact is you will make a real difference to the financial outcome for your staff. And you can provide the help and support, those critical actions that I was just talking about, where we haven't done many of them. If you provide the support, do the hand holding for your members, they will absolutely love you, because I've done that at Portsmouth. And you know, actually demystifying pensions, because it is a tough area, but demystifying it by just saying in simple terms, these are the important things you need to do, you'll suddenly find there's a weight off people's minds, and they'll say, goodness me, I've understood pensions for the first time. The other thing that's quite handy is by implementing well, certainly by implementing shared cost AVCs. Great example in Portsmouth. I've delivered £1.25 million of savings for the council. So there's been a real help to our budgets, if you like. Now, you don't need to go in search of well-being now. It's a front page news, so you won't have to go far to search for the articles that you can see on the screen in front of you. And again, it's about prioritising financial well-being. So yeah, just some articles that you could look up on Google and just reinforce the sorts of messages that I'm getting across today. Okay, so let's go on to financial well-being and pensions, because these go hand in hand, if you like. If we focus for a few minutes on this, why do pensions play such an important part in financial well-being? I have to say there's real complacency when it comes to pensions. Do you know the scary statistic out there is that 75%, so 3 out of 4 of staff who work in the local government pension scheme have no visibility to their pensions whatsoever. That is awful, absolutely awful. And in Portsmouth, I've worked really hard to do something about that. So, for example, I get a report of people who haven't bothered to register for access to their pension, and I keep going back to them again and again. Why haven't you done it? You know, it's so important to do it for the following reasons. And it's an awful statistic, that is, and you'll find that's very similar in your organisation. So with no visibility, staff often make the assumption that their pension will be enough to live comfortably in retirement. You commonly get the thing, well, I'm in the pension scheme, what's the problem? And maybe, you know, the cost of living crisis has put them off saving or bothering to look at their pension because they've got other issues on their plate. Staff find pensions complex, we all know that, and are in need of help and support. The interesting thing is, if you do engage, and I can only give Portsmouth as an example, in spite of the cost of living crisis, our staff are saving more into their pensions and not less. Portsmouth is not an affluent area, but it's all about, if you engage with your staff, put your arm around them, help to explain what amazing options they've got, then you will find that your staff will engage. And the same thing that will happen in Portsmouth, you will end up with record numbers who are saving into their pensions, understanding their pensions, doing those critical actions that they should be doing. And most employers, let's be honest, haven't got the skills or resources to deliver what I call the pension education piece. And that's why the 250 employers who have partnered up with AVC Wise, they charge them with delivering that financial well-being pension education piece. Okay, let's go on to helping staff to grow their savings. What I'm covering on this slide is how can you help your staff enhance their financial security. I think the first point here is you can build confidence in their pension knowledge, first of all, by offering comprehensive retirement education. You can empower staff to engage with their pension by explaining the scheme to them and the related benefits. And back to the 6 critical actions that very few people have done. If you do that, then suddenly they've got confidence, they know what they're doing, they know how to do it. So we'll keep coming back to those critical action themes again and again. And as part of that empowerment, if you like, you can talk to them about that wonderful shared cost AVC scheme, which is possibly the best retirement benefit available to employees because it's helping them to make their money work harder for them. On to the next slide. So the local government scheme itself, Pensions are complex. I've said that many times already. Pensions are valuable, and I've said already they're probably the best and biggest asset you provide for the staff. And we should shout the LGPS scheme from the rooftops, because it is a wonderful, wonderful scheme. Or even better, explain it to the staff so they get the message that all those wonderful benefits tucked behind it, including things like free life insurance, dependence cover, ill health cover, the famous 10-year promise that nobody seems to know about, the wonders of flexible retirement, very popular in local government. Tell them how important things like nominations are in case something awful happens. Tell them to check their record now, not in 30 years' time, by which time nothing can be done to correct any errors, maybe on service, because that's what your pension's based on. And again, explain those 6 critical actions that they should do. So very, very, it's a great scheme, LGPS, but as I say, I don't think we shout it from the rooftops enough. And I'm just going to mention shared cost AVCs because I have to say, it wouldn't be right if I didn't mention this. If you're not familiar with shared cost AVCs, from my council's perspective, they are our most popular employee financial wellbeing benefit. So as a quick example, I look after 2 councils. I've got a small council, Gosport, on the south coast. 25% of their staff pay into shared cost AVCs. Portsmouth, 15% of our staff pay in. It is very, very popular. And the simple reason we've got so many who've taken up the scheme is those astonishing growth rates. So 47% on every pound saved for a basic rate taxpayer, which is what most of our staff are, or 72% for a higher rate taxpayer. You'll never find a savings scheme that offers those sorts of rates anywhere else. The other advantages of shared cost AVCs is it doesn't affect your main scheme benefits. You're not locked into a contract. You decide how much or how little you want to pay for anything from £2 a month. The wonderful thing about local government AVCs is when you come to empty your pot at retirement, in most cases you can take it 100% tax-free. That's unique to LGPS. No other public sector scheme can do that. And through the 250 partners that we work with, we deliver all sorts of added value services, such as the pension education piece via webinars. So somebody who's not interested in AVCs can book onto a webinar, understanding the local government pension, understanding my annual benefit statement. So nothing to do with AVCs, but we do a service, as I said earlier, far beyond AVCs, and provide all sorts of helpful material for people who are interested in AVCs, such as calculators, videos, Knowledge Hub, and even very usefully, if you're really struggling, you could book on to a personal 20-minute one-to-one to go through your issues. And as I said earlier, since I launched the scheme in Portsmouth, I've saved the council £1.25 million, and it grows every single month. I'm not miles off retirement myself, and one of the biggest things I'll miss is staff who come to me on their final day or a few days before they retire, and they say to me, do you know that thing you told me about shared cost AVCs? That's the best thing I ever did. And that's quite humbling, actually, to be told that. I should really miss that after I've retired. But I hope I've hopefully left a legacy for local government. So it's a stunning scheme. If you don't know much about it, this slide here is just basically saying that shared cost AVCs make tax and national insurance savings, so more money going into your piggy bank, if you like. I mentioned earlier that I mentioned about the 100% tax-free cash, but you can do other clever things with your AVC pot. So if you're more interested in buying local government pension, you can use your pot to do that, or you can use it in a clever way to be able to retire early and live off the AVC. It's called flexible drawdown. So yeah, there's some very flexible ways that you can use your AVC on retiring. And then the question, if you as an employer aren't doing shared cost AVCs, you probably ought to have a look at it, because on this slide here, one half of the slide there, you've got, if you like, confirmation from the Local Government Association, who we work very closely with, that it's compliance with the regulations. And the other side is comparing a standard AVC with a shared cost AVC. I won't go through the numbers now, but what I wanted to say to you, if you got your calculator out and looked a little bit closer at the numbers here, you got somebody after a year will have paid £3,000 into an AVC, and it'll only cost them a little bit over £2,000. So in other words, in 1 year, they will have made nearly £1,000 in growth. I mean, it's absolutely stunning. That's why 600 staff in Portsmouth pay into it, because the savings rates are off this stratosphere, if you like. We work with quite a large number of PPMA partners. Just taking a random sample to pop up on the slide there, you'll clearly recognise quite a few of the organisations that you can see on the slide there. So I've got to the summary bit now, and just briefly to summarise, because I'm just conscious of time. So 4 ticks in the box here. First of all, have a think about whether your organisation is providing effective retirement education and intuitive access and resources, support and help. I do something in Portsmouth and offer something called a pension surgery, very, very popular, always fully booked. You'd be amazed at the variety of questions that come my way. But yeah, are you providing sufficient help and support? Second tick down, have a look at your benefits package. If you haven't done so for some time, have a look at your employee benefits portal. There's some really good ones out there. Obviously, make sure it includes shared cost AVCs, because before long, every public sector organisation will have one, and that will make your recruitment and retention difficult, because people will expect it as part of their package. Third one down, the benefits that you offer now, are they the right ones? Maybe survey your staff, see which ones they like and don't like. See how many clicks you have going through the portal, so you can evaluate how many people are logging on and which benefits they're consistently looking at. And then the last tick on the slide there, communicate the benefits as effectively as you possibly can. I keep coming back to that point. Staff are the most important asset. They all want a decent range of benefits, and I appreciate that we're in the public sector and we can't throw money at this, but there are some quite creative staff benefits that you can provide to staff through those portals that I talked about. So if you haven't reviewed your benefits package and portal, I can guarantee there's not many councils that aren't reviewing it at the current time. But that was a half an hour canter through my thoughts around financial wellbeing and financial resilience. As you can see, a lot is focused on pensions, because staff are more in control of that. They've got more options financially to do something about their retirement outcome, and there's some clever tools and facilities out there for them to be able to do it. Do we have any questions, colleagues, that I can take? Is there anybody from PPMA who can come back and tell me if there's any questions in the chat?
There hasn't been anything in the chat. I think everyone's sort of taking in all your information there, Sean, because there's quite a lot, I think, to pick up there. So I don't know about anyone else, but I found that really, really helpful and enlightening. I think just as a reminder for people, we will actually share the webinar. So again, if there's questions that come up after once you've digested the information, that will be available to you. And hopefully, Sean, it will be available to respond to any questions if they're in the follow-up.
I would be delighted to help with any questions. Just to give you an example, I attended a meeting at Luton Council earlier this week, met all the unions, which is the GMB Unite and Unison, and the senior HR management team. And we had a wonderful conversation around financial well-being and share cost ABCs and everything else. So yeah, I do get a lot of contact from the public sector with questions around this subject, questions around employee benefit packages and portals and ABCs and all that sort of thing. So I would be delighted if anybody wants to reach out to me with any questions. Yeah, more than happy to do that. Jill, thank you.
That's great, thank you. And I think really just summing up, a good comment in the chat from Rosie Holmes. Thank you, Rosie. Basically to say it is a sage reminder that we need to make sure we've got the basics in place with regard to all our staff registering to make sure that they've got that way of engaging. So a good comment there, thank you for that. Okay, so it also leaves it for me to say thank you very much again, Sean. A very good session there. As I've said, we'll follow this up so you can have a relook at it if there's any questions that you want to ask with contact details, and also then look out for further PPMA webinars. So thank you very much for taking part. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Bye for now.
Yes.